Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Well, what a weekend, folks. It's been crazy. We talked at the Dylan Mulvaney thing on Wednesday.
Still going.
It's still going. And honestly, I think there have been I think both sides of this issue have been blown out of proportion to some extent. But before we get into that, welcome to the Monday show. I hope everyone is doing well. We've got Max and Shmuley joining us. Gentlemen, how was your weekend?
Busy, you know. It's I'll tell you, it's the April vacation as they say. So the boy, my son, is out of school, and so taking him out to the park and stuff like that. He really wants to go fishing. It's still a little early in the season. It's unseasonably warm here up in Massachusetts. So, you know, it seems like good fishing weather, but you really want to hold out probably another couple weeks.
Yeah.
Just I spent the weekend, did a little spending time with a girlfriend, trying to find guests for your show. It is proven a little bit more difficult than you'd think. I mean, some people are just hard to obtain, especially, you know, with Twitter and stuff the way it is. But all in all, it's pretty good. And glad to be on the show, man.
But that's only because we'll shoot for the moon, because we want the best guests.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have found in regards to that, getting guests, it's not so much finding guests I've had trouble with. It's scheduling that seems to be the problem.
But you did have your guest from last week supposed to come this week, right?
Well,
I was excited for that because he's with America Uncensored, right?
Yeah, Uncensored America, Sean. I'm hoping we can get him on Wednesday, but he also might be traveling. So again, I don't know if he'll be doing it from like a hotel room or whatever. Hopefully not, because I've been talking to Jeff, who his assistant actually used to co-host and produce this show a long time ago.
Nice.
And Jeff actually knows Destiny. So
that'd be a big Destiny, I think, would be a really interesting person to talk to, because he'll talk and actually like, we're not going to come to a point, we're not going to convince Destiny of our position necessarily, but I think it'd be a lot more fruitful than, you know, talking to screeching idiots on Twitter, most of whom hate him. So
yeah, well, you know, that's just, as we were talking about before the show, that just seems to be social media in kind of a nutshell these days. Before I get to the show, I do want to make just a quick announcement. Yes, I am aware that the Spotify feed has kind of been fucking up and not adding new episodes. I'll try and fix that. I thought everything was uploading over the weekend, but apparently not. So for those who are asking, I'm on that. Just it'll probably happen like sometime tomorrow at the latest. But anyway,
if you want the newest content, you probably want to check out the Rumble, to be fair.
Yeah, well, the good thing about the Rumble actually is a lot of people don't know this, but if you're on mobile, I know this is the case for iOS, but I think if you're on Android too, you can background play using the Rumble app. So it's
Yeah.
just like,
A feature which YouTube charges like what, $15 a month or something for.
yeah, which I unsubscribed to that after they booted me, and
Yeah, fuck
holy
YouTube.
shit, am I like
I just in solidarity with my good friend Sam, I've moved the entirety of the Cringe Coffee House over to Odyssey. I didn't get any strikes. I expect that eventually I would. But the idea is just to move over anyway. We're having so much fun on these other platforms where we can just talk. It's great.
Yeah, the only problem I have with Odyssey is, and I did notice that, is you need to go back and publish the like replay. It
Yeah.
doesn't do
Well,
automatically.
I got a couple problems with Odyssey for my first stream. That some stuff is just not intuitive. So just a pro tip to anybody: if you're streaming on Odyssey, never ever click the button that says reset stream. Because
Oh yeah.
it made me unable to stream. Like, it took so much effort basically, but once I got it done, it's fairly easy. And I'm gonna also upload all back episodes of the Cringe Coffee House, including some of the censored ones that are already up there if you want to see. Some of it gets a little, look, I look at some weird people on the internet, and sometimes they say some stuff that if they're a small channel, they can get away with it, but the bigger you get as a channel, the more likely you are to get taken down. And so those videos are up on Odyssey. There's one of Dave Grady, a longtime friend of our show, yelling racial slurs through a megaphone at his black neighbors, and stuff like that. So that's all much more at home on Odyssey even than Rumble. I felt a little iffy about that kind of content on Rumble.
Yeah, and I can see why. I might be doing a music show at one point on Odyssey. Just because I don't know, they are with like, music copyrights, but they seem less lax than Rumble. And real quick, Fat Keck Boy, longtime supporter of the show, just donated $1 with a beer emoji. So cheers, I guess, and thank you for the $1, sir.
Yeah. So that brings us to the Budweiser thing, right? So you were a Budweiser drinker, correct?
Yeah.
I have been, on and off. Certainly it's hard to get around drinking Anheuser Busch beer, especially when I was younger. Look, if you wanted to drink a 30 pack with some friends, a lot of people are just going to say, hey, get Bud Light or whatever.
Yeah, now to be clear, like I've drank Budweiser regular on the show. I've never had Bud Light, just because I mean, I've had Bud Light, just not on the show, because light beer, regardless of the brand, tastes awful.
Yeah.
But that's
and Bud Light in particular, I would say, is the most light beer of all lights, if that makes sense. It's the standard that every light beer seems to want to be, right? They all want to be some and for good reason. It's been successful, and that's why it's so funny that this shot them in the foot so bad. And then we have the whole Donald Trump Jr. and some other people calling to end the quote unquote boycott. It's interesting.
Well, so you have, so let's just jump into that real quick, because you have Donald Trump Jr. calling to end the boycott, which some people are not happy about. Then you have Clay Travis, who is one of Rush Limbaugh's replacements, and he was saying, well, Anheuser-Busch needs to apologize, but they also need to, if they want to apologize, they actually need to support like conservative organizations, and do like a campaign with a conservative organization. And my whole thing is, no, they don't, because then it'll just, then it'll just be on the opposite, you know. And what they need to do is just apologize, do like an actual apology, say they were wrong and made a mistake, and you know, just continue doing the Clydesdale campaigns and what has always worked for them. So
I want to just bring this up here because this really kind of personifies what I think about boycotts. And it's kind of important. So this, you might not see the whole thing up there, but it says the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 boycott. We want dedicated servers. So this was the old Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in 2009, I believe. And what had happened was on the PC, they were saying, we're not going to do dedicated servers anymore. That we're only going to do peer-to-peer like the game consoles do. And a lot of PC gamers were mad about that. And they said, boycott. Well, this is the group, the official group of boycotting Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. This is a screenshot from the release day of the game. And if you notice, most of the people in there are playing Call of Duty 2. So this is what boycotts actually are like. And this is why calling for any type of centralized boycott or telling people to stop boycotting like they're doing is both stupid, because people are either going to be fed up and not buy the product, and you don't need to tell them, or they're not, and they're going to buy the product even though maybe they shouldn't. And so calling for people to boycott, calling for people to stop boycotting is kind of a really dumb strategy. And the left does it because the left is better at collective action than we are. And I just don't think it's probably our best bet is to promote products that we can actually support. That's my opinion.
My take is that, you know, you're saying that we should sort of like accept an apology or whatever. Is that something that like the left would do?
No.
So then I don't think we should. I understand that, like, oh, well, the company Anheuser Busch is donated to Republicans as well or whatever, right? But I think that in this case, we should do whatever furthers our power, right? We should do whatever makes it so that we are an actual force to be taken seriously, right?
Right. Well, and I just don't think that from where we stand, a collective organized boycott will ever be that. I think a suggestion of, hey, this is what I've always done. People don't, when I was on YouTube, like, hey, why don't you try these other alternatives? Now, I understand it's not as effective. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't get you on TV. But it is more in line with the way that we're able to actually mobilize conservatives. It's the same as like telling conservatives to protest, right? If you go to any of these events, one, they always have to plan it on like a Saturday morning or afternoon because everybody works. Unlike a lot of people on the left, they can go on Tuesday at fucking 9 a.m., right? And
right.
The rest of us maybe can't do that. I've had that out with because I worked with Super Happy Fun America, the organizers of Straight Pride back in the day, and they were organizing other events, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come down to the State House in Boston on Thursday," and I'm like, "No one's gonna come. It's just like it has to be a Saturday." These are the tethers that are put upon our side of things that we have to work around. We can't pretend that it doesn't exist. We can't pretend that the problem of so many conservatives work that they're not going to come out in numbers is not a thing, because that's just how it is. And even when you see the bigger stuff, like even the January 6th, not including the people who stormed the Capitol, but just the people who went to see Trump speak and everything, was a fraction of how many people would have liked to shown their support or whatever, but they just can't. And another thing is, with cancel culture existing, a lot of people like to keep their fucking head low.
Right.
And it's not fair to tell them that they shouldn't. That's one of my biggest beefs with Tim Pool specifically, is he went after people saying, oh, you guys should be in Portland defending the people of Portland. And people would say, look, I'm a dad with a job. And he'd say, oh, that's no excuse. You know, they're going to come for you. They're going to come for your kid anyway. And it's like, yeah, okay. But like, if I listen to you, my kid's going to literally starve because I'm going to go to jail for fighting some Antifa freak because you think it's morally justified. But where are you, Tim?
Right.
I don't see him out there fist fighting Antifa in the street, but he tells his listeners to do it. That's why he's a charlatan.
Well, yeah, and a grifter. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'd accept a grifter if they're not a charlatan. You know, like that's the worst.
Well, and I mean, okay, so I get why people are upset over the Dylan, Mulvaney thing. I do. But another thing I was thinking though is the people who are, again, I mean, I don't think like, maybe I could be wrong, but Don Jr. does not seem like a Budweiser guy.
No,
to me,
he's probably not even much of a drinker, to be honest. Most of his family isn't, right? It's not.
Well, that's my point. Like the quote unquote conservatives who are saying to boycott Anheuser Busch, they probably don't drink like Budweiser products. Anyway,
I actually disagree there. I think a lot of them do. I think the people that are basically saying, no, fuck you, I'm going to keep boycotting, were probably the I've used the term before, Kid Rock conservatism. You know, that's who's actually still boycotting and who's going to continue, because that was a part of their life. And in many ways, an escape from the bullshit to come home after work on a Friday night, have some Bud Lights with the boys or whatever, and get shit-faced. And now you've brought that political shit into that sphere, and they're angry about it. And telling those people to, just go buy Bud now is not going to, like, that's what I mean by this organized, centralized boycott shit. You can't call for one on the right because of reasons I mentioned, but also calling to stop one ignores these people's very real feelings. You know, and yes, I get it. For people like us, we've been tread upon, right? They've stepped on Sneck for us before. We've seen it in our video games. We've seen it in yada, yada, yada. You name whatever fucking thing. They've come and they've done this to you before. But for a lot of those working class guys, this is the first time it's affected something directly in their everyday life, and they're fucking pissed. And telling them to stop being pissed ain't going to work. So you need a different strategy.
Yeah.
And that's why I say the strategy that you've even employed here, where you have promoted Yingling. You said, well, I've switched to Yingling. I think that's a much clearer strategy of like, because that's the other thing. Okay, we don't have time to go out to protest like they do, but what we do have is generally disposable income that the low-level Antifa people don't have.
Right. Well, and I bring up Yingling because, like, there's footage of me drinking Yingling on the show, just as there's footage of me drinking Budweiser. Now, like, to be honest, Yingling is mostly in stock, but not always. And, like, I'll be honest, the big appeal to Budweiser, I know it's a mediocre beer, but when I was in college, it was nice to be able to get like a 24 pack for just like $15 or something, right? Like,
which is why anybody drank cheap beer like that, right? Like,
I
would go one further and I'd get like Natty Ice. I drank like a whole 30 pack when I was like 24 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Also an Anheuser-Busch product, by the way, for anybody that's trying to boycott them.
Oh yeah.
Gotta avoid the natural ice and all that too.
Well, and that is the thing too, though, right? Like I did tweet this out, or maybe I posted it on Substack. I'm not sure, but Anheuser-Busch is basically the Coca-Cola of beer.
Yeah.
They own not just beer, but a ton of products in adult beverages. So it's not impossible, but it is challenging to kind of boycott them. And
what has them scared is that like Max said, this is something that struck a chord with a lot of people. I'd have to fact check it more in depth, but like my understanding is that places like gay bars, it's down.
Yeah.
That there's just a lot of people that were like, no, I'm not down with this stuff. And I think that's what has them like shocked, because the kind of people calling the shots are not in touch with most everyday people.
Right.
No.
They're going to tend to have gone to elite schools and they're in a bubble. But second, the concept that like you could get boycotted or canceled for going with wokeness is just blindsided them.
Yeah, it's completely new to them. Like they're still unwilling to accept that it's real to some degree. If you look at the Budweiser apology, it is not an apology. They never said we're sorry.
No.
For this, they say, oh, well, our intent is always to bring people together. And I guess we didn't do that. So like, sorry, I guess that it's a non-apology. And the people that were angry about it anyway, smell that a mile away. I can understand why somebody like Trump Jr., I think Matt Walsh is also saying to stop boycotting. I can understand their perspective, and they
really
might be correct.
Matt Walsh, like that. Okay, Trump, I can kind of understand because he's like a libertarian on like the LGBT stuff, but Matt Walsh, like that one does surprise me.
I may be slightly off on that. I haven't watched the whole video that was going around.
Here's
okay. No, I'm like completely off base. It's actually he's doing a response to that and saying that the GOP establishment is useless. So my apologies to Matt Walsh for mischaracterizing his argument. But there are other establishment or high-level conservatives saying the same thing. That is true.
Well, okay, so in regards to the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing itself, I don't think people understand that, like, this was supposedly supposed to like a March Madness promotion, and yet Dylan Mulvaney, who I thought at first was like a student athlete, when they did
this is where I think a lot of people are confused. So I can actually explain what happened here. Just so you know.
because I mean, like I've seen the video that they posted out, and I'm still confused as to what exactly.
So the point of this promotion that they've been doing was to highlight quote unquote influencers and give them customized beer cans to help celebrate milestones. The idea being, oh, how do you celebrate a milestone in life with Bud Light with friends, right? And that by itself is not an offensive ad campaign, right? That's very generic. That's very corporate. It's very safe. But the cans that they've made for these people are not available to the public. They just sent it to this Dylan, whatever this person is. They sent them to him, her, whatever the fuck they want to call it. And the milestone was like a year as a woman or whatever. And like that too smacks of like shallow corporatism, that they were like, oh yeah, that's a milestone. They should celebrate that with the Bud Light. I guarantee you they didn't think there would be a backlash.
Well, it just seems like okay, I get that. I mean,
they should have seen it coming, but they didn't.
No, I mean, so So I watched the Instagram campaign that they did, and I mean, so a few things to take note of. Uh, Dylan Mulvaney looks more like Michael Jackson in his later years when when he had like the really bad like plastic surgery, you know, botched job. That like credit where credit is due. Blair White, like if you're going to go transgender, at least do like
But that's the thing is Blair White's whole shtick is different. So Dylan Mulvaney, I don't know if you watched it, but like is literally a mockery of womanhood. Like that's the whole bit.
Well, yeah, that's
intent. That's not an accident. That's intentional.
That's what I was getting at. Max, is like their whole bit doesn't even so much to be like I'm trans. It seems to be more like I'm intentionally mocking women.
Aren't women such stupid thoughts? I'll act like a woman. Ha 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 ha. That's his whole bit. If anything, I'd say that guy's the most misogynist motherfucker, out there.
If you look at the first week, like he says that it was intended to be satire. Initially, like his initial first videos, right?
That sounds about right. And then of course it caught on, and he's gonna ride that wave to all the money and clout he can get. And I can't even blame the guy. It's just amazing how far it's gone.
And now you might say that, like, okay, well, he is transgender, but it was intended to be over the top and exaggerated and be a mockery. And he could really still be quote unquote, you know what I mean? But
so essentially his excuse is he's trying to do Sacha Baron Cohen.
He kind of in the beginning, yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case anymore because he realized that this is the easy road, and that's the thing. This is why trans is so appealing to young people in particular. Let's say you got a teacher in school. And I said this about gay probably 10 years ago. If you are that kid, right, that doesn't really know what your identity is, and that's a lot of us when we're in an adolescent period, right? It can be very appealing when you are shown that there is an option for you, that you don't really have to change much about yourself internally, but you do have to present a certain image, and then you're going to get more friends. The teachers are going to treat you better. You might get better grades, or at least get excused like, oh, I can't take the test because I'm feeling whatever today. How is that not appealing to young men who don't imagine if you tried to go into school acting as a traditionally conservative man. I imagine there'd be a lot of frustration and alienation for these young boys, and I see it actually in the young kids in school today.
Can confirm firsthand. However, I was kind of like I'm not directly comparing myself to Jim Morrison, the Lizard King, but when I was in high school, Obama was president. It was really cool to like Obama, right, in the Obama administration because of hope and change and all that. So I was the counterculture guy where I was like, fuck Obama, John McCain is cool, even though I didn't.
I'm a counterculture guy myself. I supported Pat Buchanan in 2000, and so like people like us, that doesn't work on.
Yeah,
but the people I'm talking about, the young guys who really don't feel confident, maybe they don't have a good support system, they don't have a lot of friends. This idea of, like I say, when it was me in high school and a little after, it was, if you are the gay kid, you are now special and you're going to get special treatment. Now it's, if you're the gay kid wouldn't be enough. You'd have to be trans. And also the teachers are much more open about wanting you to be trans specifically. It used to be kind of subtext that if you became the gay, they didn't say, oh, if you become the gay kid, everything will be great. But you would learn, okay, me acting this way like I normally am as a traditionally, male kind of archetype is getting me fucked over time and time again, and I'm getting left out and I'm getting worse grades and I'm getting in trouble. It could be a lot easier just to accept it. And here's the kicker. You don't even have to suck a dick, right? You don't even have to actually be into the gay stuff or the trans stuff for that. You might have to fucking take hormones, but probably not. You could just say you're non-binary. And this is what I've been telling young guys for a couple of years now. If you say you're non-binary, there's nothing they can do to challenge that, because you could say, look, some days I feel like a woman. Today isn't one of those days, and you don't get to define my gender, bigot.
But Max, don't you understand that's medicalism?
Is
right?
it?
Your friend Dev, talks about this, right? He's a proud
I don't know about a friend.
Yeah, your best friend forever, Dev. Short fat otaku.
God, I recommend one video one time by a guy. He's my best buddy.
Yeah, he's your best friend forever. Anyway, he talks about this a lot, right? He says, oh, well, I'm a medicalist. And what he means by that is somebody who's trans is going to take hormones and get diagnosed and go through the process. And then from that point on, we recognize them as being legitimately trans. A lot of the activists hate this because it's just your identity alone. Anyone who says that they can be, otherwise you're oppressing and denying their lived experience. Because
well, then I'm not being medicalist, right? Because I'm pointing out that if you just say you're non-binary, they can't challenge that.
Yeah, you're right about non-binary, but earlier you had done a heckin' medicalism, and
well, yeah, because it's if we're gonna fucking entertain this bullshit at all, that's the only one, and I think I honestly don't entertain that one either. I just don't believe quote unquote dysphoria is a real thing.
You don't believe dysphoria is a real thing?
Correct. Neither does Dr. Phil, so I'm not alone.
Okay.
I mean,
it's a school of thought that because it's just another stress. It's an anxiety condition, if anything. Mm-hmm. And it should just fall under the umbrella of anxiety. And we don't treat anxiety with radical surgeries and hormone replacement.
Oh, no. I 100% agree that the way we're going about treating it right now, it would make sense that it would be something similar to OCD or, diagnosable anxiety, right? That would make sense.
I think it's another condition in almost every case. And I think a lot of those cases, it's autism or Asperger's.
Well, that would correlate with from what I've seen of the data, right? The majority of instances of gender dysphoria now are young women, which is the opposite of what it would have been. And a lot of these girls,
the vast majority too. We're not talking a majority of 51% here. We're talking about 80.
Yeah,
just to be very clear.
Yeah, I don't believe actually that they're legitimately dysphoric either. I think it's a social contagion.
Well, when you ask them what makes them feel like a man, and I actually have on one occasion asked somebody like this, what makes you think that you're a man? Their answer inevitably is woman think, right? It's something a woman would say, and you're just that is not how men perceive the world, honey. It's just not how we look at things.
And I've gone over and sort of listened to more of the feminist critique.
And they don't like when you call them honey, by the way.
I wouldn't imagine. You would think that they would if, well, I guess they're female to man, right?
Right. Yeah, don't call the female to males honey.
But no, I've looked at the sort of feminist critique of this stuff, and I'm trying to remember exactly who it was. The one popular, she's a college professor. She's been a known feminist for years. I'm trying to remember her name. Sorry, audience.
Christina Hoff Summers.
Yes. And she pointed out an example where a girl was like, well, I knew I was a boy because I like math.
Right. Yeah. Or things like that. It's funny because if my wife was, one of those people, she liked wearing pants because they're comfortable and hoodies. She got into a lot of the same stuff little boys would get into, trucks and stuff. And then she grew up, and now she loves pretty pink shit. Okay. Now she's super into her femininity because it wasn't a gender thing for her. She was a kid that was into certain things. And this is so common. We used to call it a fucking tomboy.
I was just gonna say that.
Liking wearing comfortable clothes does not make you a man. I'm sorry, not sorry.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. This is all on a bell curve, and so yeah, like typically masculine behavior or typically feminine behavior is not going to correlate perfectly 1-to-1 as a binary in that way.
Right.
But it is reductionist then to say that, like, because you're good at math, well, that means that you're on the spectrum more towards men. Right? So you're actually a man. This is sort of denying the diversity among human beings. There are women who in their personality are more masculinized. Right? I know this because there's women with autism.
Right. And to be fair, we used to do, and we'll probably do it this year, Sam, if you're down for it, a White Christmas for Autism. It's a charity stream that we've done every year around Christmas to raise money for the American Autism Society, because Autism Speaks is a left-wing organization.
Yeah. I hate fucking Autism Speaks. So,
yeah, Hillary Clinton sits on the board of Autism Speaks still. So it's not what I would consider a legitimate organization, and it's very political. And so we were raising money for what is a much more research-oriented group, which is the Autism Society. And we talk about this stuff, and we've even had a couple of years ago, we had Max Derritt on, who talks about this stuff quite extensively, and even has a server based on mental health stuff. And like, so we're not coming at this from a point of view of like, oh, nobody's got anything wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I think that these people have something wrong with them. I think that dysphoria is a cope. It's a smoke screen, because they can say, well, I got dysphoria. And if you don't alleviate it, I'm going to off myself. And it's like, well, that to me sounds like clinical depression more than anything. And we don't treat that with surgery. And when we used to treat it with surgery, we called it a lobotomy, and we all look at it as fucking brutal and barbaric now.
No, here's a hot take. We don't treat depression anymore, period.
That's fair. But that we don't treat it with somebody might prescribe you therapy, somebody might prescribe you pills, whatever you think of the fucking pills. We could have that argument all fucking day. They'll try and treat you somehow, but no one is going to say, hey, what about this radical, life-changing, unreversible surgery that has a whole host of downsides that we're not going to tell you about? How about that to treat your basic depression?
Right. Well, and so I was actually I've been listening to this podcast called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, and it's a podcast all about how the radical LGBT fringe sects basically tried to cancel J.K. Rowling. And in one of the episodes, it talked about like a lot of these individuals who have detransitioned, they realized that they weren't actually trans, they were just really depressed. And
Well, another thing is they say this stuff openly, and I know everybody's seen it here, where they say, if I don't get treated, I'm going to commit suicide. Now, that is every state in the union, okay? The standards for commitment to a psychiatric ward is danger to self or danger to others. The third one that some states have and some states do not is an inability to care for oneself. But like number one, harm to self, danger to self. If you're saying that if you don't do what I want, I'm a harm to myself, my honest opinion of that is anybody that says that should be evaluated immediately. But that's not going to happen because they're a protected class. The trans rights activists have actually climbed themselves to the top of the progressive stack, and they're never going to give it up without a fight. In fact, if you listen to them, they're the most oppressed people in human history.
No, it's literally oppression. It's literally the oppression Olympics.
Oh boy, we got a strong accusation in chat. MAGA News Network says Sam cheats at CS:GO. My God, is this true?
Sam cheats at CS:GO. I'm not even sure what CS:GO is because I'm a.
Oh, that's right. He can't cheat at CS:GO. He's a filthy console peasant. Guess what? Chat blown out.
MAGA News Network. MAGA News Network is a fake.
True.
But
the mental health stuff is all over this, right? And the conversation. Look, I'm not a doctor, so I ain't or a psychiatrist or anything. So these are just my opinions and thoughts. But certainly they're not pulled from nowhere. And when somebody says something, and we've seen a lot of trans people advocating for violence as well. So that's harm to others. Anybody that does both of those things, that's just showing publicly that they are a harm to self and others. Why are they not in some type of evaluation? I can't understand it, but it's because they're a protected class.
Well, and we saw this. We saw this too, right? After that shooting in Tennessee happened a few weeks ago, where there were big like marketing campaigns in the media to to advocate for like trans voices.
Oh yeah, it was a trans day of retribution or whatever, like right after. I was saying off air, it's almost like the trans activists have been like, just fuck your optics, we're going in.
So I looked into that because like my thought was this would be like a 4chan thing.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, there's no way. It brought me to like a Facebook group, and they appeared to be real, but they had deleted that post.
Right. Well, at least they understood, the optics.
That's what it seemed to be. Like I said, that's the extent of my dive, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like I've always said, if there are individuals with good intentions in any group, then there also must be people with bad intentions in any group.
Yeah, because that's why that's why I'm using the term trans rights activists, because I think it hits more to the point of what we're talking about. Because if you got a tranny in your town, likely it's going to be, like we were saying, female to male or whatever, and you're probably not going to fucking spend much thought about them, and they probably aren't into most of this stuff. They tacitly support like leftist and gay causes, but certainly they're not. I guarantee you most trans people are not like, yeah, we should commit acts of violence.
Yeah.
And if people are like that, I think they need to be investigated.
Yeah, this is the thing that they always do, which would be to equate the activism of a thing with those people themselves, because the activists represent those people, right?
And activists love that.
Yeah, and that's their worldview. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate. Because I will say, like you were talking about them being oppressed, it's like, in what sense? Because a situation where somebody is mentally ill and other people conspire to feed into that for their own political game, their own politics, their own making money, or all the various scams that have arose around this, as far as the surgeries, the therapies, the
HRT is not cheap.
To what degree is doing that to somebody who is mentally ill, oppressing them?
Right.
It's certainly victimizing them.
Yeah, it's certainly using them for your own goals, regardless of their best interest.
Yeah.
And that's sad. And I in such a way, there is a way I can have empathy for the trans people. And here's the other thing. Though I say I don't think dysphoria as such exists, and I think it's actually a symptom of something else going on. That said, if you want to live your life as a fucking woman, for the most part, I don't actually have a problem with that. But that's not where it stops for these people ever. And it's gone into a place where it's like, I linked an article in our Guild server last night that I read through and got so angry because it was written about somebody working at a drag club, and this heartwarming story of when the 5-year-old girl had walked up to this drag queen in like a fucking thong in high heels and stuck a $5 bill in her. And she's just looking up to me as a model of femininity. And I was like, I hate you. I actually hate you.
Yeah, it's there. It's okay. I have no problem with trans people existing. I don't think anybody really does, but it's when they do. It's when they take it to.
I'm sure some people do, right? But they don't. They're very loud online, but they really don't amount to. Most people don't care.
Yeah, most people just don't. And see, like that's the other thing too. Like, why do we have to care all the time?
Until you step on Snack, right? When you step on Snack, they fucking care. And stepping on Snack has come in degrees. The first one was, oh, you got to navigate all our stupid fucking pronouns. And most people are like, it's not even from a place of like, I don't like you or I want to disrespect you. It's like, I can't keep track of all this fucking shit.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's like, okay, so I'm confused. What does this shit even mean? That's where it started.
Right. Well, and then the next one is you're stepping on Snack again, coming for our kids. Right. And that's the line for a lot of fucking normies.
Short of the political game, right? If you met a guy like that, you'd probably be like, oh, that's kind of crazy. Like if it was an old biker dude in a dress, right? Like 30 years ago, and he's like, look, I like wearing dresses. You know what I mean? I know it's whatever. You probably think it's weird. Yeah, I'm weird.
Yeah.
In that context, I think people are more amenable. But the reality is that there is an implied mandate that you accept the person. There is an implied mandate. There's an implied feeling that people feel like they're forced into by society, right? And I think that's where the sort of animosity is, and that's where it should be placed, right? It should be placed at the activists and the people who are getting off on that power, because human nature being the way it is, people will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And this is something that left-wing people seem to have a hard time intuiting, whereas conservatives instantly sort of like, let me weigh this new thing with what problems I can come up with off the top of my head. Whereas
Well,
they're like, no, people wouldn't do that.
yeah.
Right? New things good. People wouldn't do that. People wouldn't take advantage of that.
Well, we played that clip of Bill Maher on Wednesday's show this past week.
Yeah.
And even he admits you can't change human nature overnight. You just can't. And that's what they've tried to do. It's gone from it's gone from from drag to gay marriage to the furthest extreme now, which is we want your kids at our drag shows. So.
And I would say this, there's a bit of a disconnect from people my age. Obviously, I'm pushing 40, and people maybe younger than 30. And the disconnect is that people younger than 30, this shit has been there pretty much as long as they can remember. That's not the case for people my age. It happens so fucking fast. It happens so fast.
I mean,
I graduated in 2002.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Max. But even for me, like, I'm only 28.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff was not here, at least not at this level, even 10 years ago when
I was talking with a friend of ours the other night in Gilded, and I mentioned that I think that the root cause of all of this, where this kind of radical leftism finally got its stage and its mainstream attention, was Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, can I tell you real quick? The reason why there aren't a lot of people my age that speak out about this, there are a lot of people who are really upset about this, but they feel like if they say anything about this, they're going to get canceled.
And they shouldn't. Don't get this is the other thing. If you are in a position to better yourself, make your life better, there's no reason for you to stick your fucking neck out to that degree.
I mean, I completely agree with you, but
if you want to, is different. I'm not saying if that's path you want to take, but don't throw your life away, because I've always said the pendulum swings back and forth, and I've said for about 2 years now we're swinging the other direction again.
No,
I think that if you do that, right, if you right now, let's say you're in college or just getting started in a new career in corpo world or something like that, to get yourself canceled right now is really, really short-sighted, because in 4 or 5 years, you're not going to have to worry about as much of this shit.
I agree with that. I hear what you're saying, but there is the flip side of like, okay, well, I'm not trying to deliberately get myself canceled. Like, I'm not going to do anything crazy, but like we've gotten to the point.
But they change the rules every fucking day. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point where like, so like my whole thing with the whole trans thing or the LGBT thing is, if you're LGBT or you're trans or whatever, that's cool. You do you and I'll do me. And then they'll be like, no, you have to validate my thing. Otherwise you're going to get canceled. But I'm not comfortable doing that. Too bad. You have to. Otherwise you're going to get fired.
Right.
That's
unfortunate, and that's not something that these guys can help. I'm talking about what you can help, basically.
Oh yeah. I'm not.
Don't go screaming out on fucking campus about, stop the steal or something, unless that's something you really you have to weigh, and young guys tend not to do this, but you have to weigh the pros and the cons of a long-term consequence for your actions. Is it worth going out there and spreading your message when your message is verboten and getting yourself in trouble? I would say that's a decision each man is going to make on his own. But you have to weigh those consequences, and I feel a lot of times people don't think about it.
Yeah. No, and lots of people and lots of people don't. They
And
don't think, oh,
and it's hard too, because it takes a level of fucking stoic mentality. You have to take the slings and arrows. You have to say, like teachers, you're in I'm going to go with the college student here. You're in college and the teacher says you have to write about the fucking oppression of the such and such whatever cultural Marxist da. It's going to be everything in you, the anti-communist guy is going to scream, I have to write and prove why this teacher's wrong. And that might feel really good when you do it, but when you get a D- back and it brings down your entire GPA and you have to repeat the fucking course, maybe it's not worth it.
And that is little what happened to me my freshman year of college, and that was 8 years ago. And that was at a community college too. And that's the other thing I mean, I hate to say it, but if you're like a young conservative guy and you think that you think that like campus reform or something is going to help you debate your liberal college professor at your local community college, they're not. They only care about the big about like the big name colleges like Stanford and Yale, or
and also even campus reform isn't necessarily going to stop that leftist teacher from giving you a bad grade, right? And then they'll justify it too, right? They'll say, oh well, look at he made this mistake here and blah 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 blah, and his premise was weak or whatever. Like they're not going to say, oh, this person, this is the thing a lot of people don't understand. Liberals don't work as overtly in your face as a lot of people seem to think. They work through tactical nihilism and tactical ignorance. These are two terms that people might want to know. Tactical nihilism is when you corner somebody on an issue that they're essentially wrong and they say, well, what does it matter anyway? Now, they cared really, really deeply about this thing enough to argue with you for fucking 20 minutes. But now, because they're backed into a corner, I don't care. I don't care about this or any of this. This is a waste of my fucking time. That's tactical nihilism. And I guarantee if you've never encountered the term before, you know what I mean. And then the flip side is tactical ignorance. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean? What do you mean men might impersonate women and go into the restroom to commit sexual assault? That's like, no, that wouldn't ever happen. That is intentional, willful, tactical ignorance. They know damn well that that's a possibility because they know that it's part of their whole message that there's a whole subset of people that will do anything to rape women.
Right. Yeah. And and that's the whole thing of, well, they're the people who just want to believe, well, all trans people have good intentions. And it's like,
right.
And it's like, look, there are probably trans people with wonderful intentions. But like I said, and
probably most of them, if we're honest, right?
Probably most of them. But if they're going to be good actors, they're also going to be bad actors in every.
Right. And even if they're the minority, they exist. They're real. And those people, the people I'm talking about, aren't trans activists anyway. They're like, oh, I could just say I'm a woman and go in there. Well, fuck, that makes things a lot easier. And it happens. That's the other thing where they'll use tactical ignorance about. You can show them examples of it happening and they'll say, I don't think that person was trans. Well, does it matter? They're using that as cover. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, and okay, and let's say they're right too. Okay, let's say that okay, so let's say that I pretend to be trans, right, to go into the women's restroom, and then someone says, well, I don't think Sam is actually trans. All I need to do is just say, well, you're assuming my gender. And yeah.
Missed opportunity for an April Fool's episode where you came on and did the Samantha Whitfield report. Should have done that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We did miss that, but
just picture audience Sam putting like lipstick on real badly and he's got like a wig half hanging off his head, and he insists that you use she, her pronouns. Maybe next year. We'll see.
The hardest thing about that would be me trying to do it with a straight face.
Yeah, that's what would make it so fucking funny. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, women also, like my wife's position is pretty fucking simple. She doesn't feel uncomfortable with a dude in the bathroom with her, just period. And it doesn't matter if they claim to be trans or not. Biological women, I know, shock, have different needs, have different things as to why they're, but I think I said this on the show last week. It's a joke I've made before. It would be much beneficial to me because everybody knows men's rooms generally fucking gross, right?
Oh,
If you could just say, well, you know what, I'm actually I'm non-binary, and today I'm a woman. I'm going to use the woman's room because you could then sit on a cleaner toilet. There's more likely to be fucking toilet paper there for you. Now, granted, there's no urinal, so that's kind of a downside. But you could see the point of why that might be appealing, even just from a very utilitarian. And I don't care about any of this stuff, but I like a clean bathroom. And that I don't like to use public restrooms at all because I don't want to deal with how dirty they can be. Like, I much prefer to use my own crapper here at home if given the option. But if I could say, okay, that women's bathroom is objectively going to be cleaner, it seems like it's beneficial to me. Now, that completely discounts the discomfort that my big hairy ass would put upon all the women who use that restroom, right? And whether or not they are leftist, whether or not they respect trans rights or whatever, look at my big hairy fucking, I'm 6'4". Do you think these women aren't going to be uncomfortable sitting in a bathroom with me? And if they are uncomfortable sitting in a bathroom with me who is abusing a loophole in the system, does that make them transphobic?
Yes.
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 That's the leftist take is yes, they would be transphobic because they can't discern whether my intentions are good or not, so they have to assume that they are, which is a scary way to deal with anything. You just gotta let's just assume their intentions are good.
But I mean, this is their moral blind spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't do that. You're just trying to hurt them.
Trans activists, I would do that. Not to abuse any women, but to use a cleaner toilet. So don't tell me no one would do it, because I would do it.
Yeah, and this is where their moral foundations get in the way of their ability to recognize the natural law. Right. The natural law of human behavior, incentive.
Mm-hmm. And that incentive might not seem like much to a lot of people. Oh, he wants to just shit on a clean toilet. But to me, that's a pretty big incentive.
They don't understand, I forgive who you are for what you stand to gain.
Yeah, I can't remember who said that, but I've definitely heard that too.
That was me. I coined that.
That's Shmuley 2023.
Based.
I said that in 1998.
So when you were born, basically.
I think I was like 3. Yeah.
Yeah. He was. See, he was sitting in the playpen, and he looks to his buddy.
Well, Shmuley, we all know that you're a prodigy, right?
It makes sense. Like the kid, he punched me and took my toy, and I'm like,
well, that's a
incentive.
Good reply.
That's how I learned incentive. You know what I mean? That's when I, stopped being a leftist. At 3, when I got hit and they took my stuff, and I said, "Hey, that fucking sucks."
Based.
I like owning stuff.
Well, and that kind of speaks to the fundamental difference, though. Like, not joking, is that like the inherent value of the idea of fairness between the two sides. I've said the ultimate job of every father, if there is one lesson to impart upon your sons specifically, but daughters as well, it's that life is just not fair and it never will be. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean you'll always get screwed. It just means that life isn't fair. Our existence isn't fair. You could die. Like, we're so fucking fragile. Like, people forget how goddamn fragile a human being is. But with it, like, if there's a laundry list of things that could happen to you right now, and you would be dead in less than a few seconds, right? And that is not fair necessarily, right? But it happens, and when we encounter suffering on people who are more right-minded or right-wing minded, I should specify. I'm not saying like everybody's wrong who disagrees with me. We will encounter it in a way of like, I hope that this bad experience makes me better next time I encounter some resistance or some adversity in life. The conservative mythology is very much tied to redemption arcs, and it's not a surprise, being as almost all people on the right are Christian, or at least adopt some level of Christian philosophy, Judeo-Christian philosophy. But the left sees suffering as the ultimate evil to be avoided at all costs, harm reduction.
I would add that there's a sense of fairness that a lot of conservatives believe, which is much more rooted in like, I don't want to say rooted, but it's much more similar to like karma, right? There's this certain level that like you don't want to interfere with someone's fucking karma, right? If you go do dumb thing happens to you, therefore you learn lesson. They often feel upset if, like, for instance, the government will come bail people out. Now, that is intuitive as well, because it prevents mal incentives, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they see that as like, it's unfair. Other people didn't go max out their credit cards, and now you're bailing them out, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense that it is not just you get what's good for you, you also suffer when you do things that are not wise.
And we don't really talk about it much anymore. It's not a point, but I actually think like Ethan Ralph is a great example of seeing that in action. Ethan Ralph does a lot of distasteful things that people find horrific, and he doesn't seem to get the consequences to the level of which his actions would deserve. And that's why a lot of these Kiwi farmers go fucking nuts, because it's like, how is he not going to jail? He keeps committing crimes. Because life's not fair. Just because you think he deserves that doesn't mean it's how things are going to work out. It means that when he breaks a law or when he does something atrocious, there is a risk that he's going to get the consequences, but it's not a guarantee. It's never a guarantee.
Yeah, but no. I mean, and to be honest, that was my problem with Ralph for a long time. I was like, how is this guy this much of a piece of shit? And yet,
because if any of us acted like that, we would probably suffer the consequences. He's just one of those people, for whatever reason, that can get away with a lot more than other people.
Yeah.
And it does suck to see that. And if I hadn't learned that lesson of life's not fair myself, I would feel like, what the fuck? This guy needs to get his. But I bring him up because it's a good transition, because there's the other thing that's going on this week. You want to talk about the other thing real quick?
Yes, which I'm not even sure what's like. I've seen little glimpses. I have mainly had to have Genius Anus kind of fill me in on what's going on, but even he's not sure really what's going on, because I guess he's been taking time away from the internet, as he tends to do. All I know is that Ethan Ralph has now gone literally like blue-haired feminist.
That is
Totally
true.
club.
He has made himself look like a middle-aged lesbian with blue hair. However, he's a side character in what I'm about to talk about. Of course, he's associated with Cozy TV and America First, which is a organization. I guess, like, I'm going to explain. I understand, audience, you probably all know this, but let me just get through the spiel. So America First is an organization that was founded out of the ashes of the alt-right in Charlottesville. Nick Fuentes and the Beardsley and some of these other guys had said, oh, well, we need to talk about the same issues that the alt-right was talking about, but we need better optics. And thus America First was born. A lot of money was sunk into it from perhaps dubious sources. And for years, they'd been pushing a narrative with some weird things in between. One example was Nick Fuentes went on an actual date with a gay catboy sex streamer, cam streamer of some kind, and he actually went on a
Catboy
date.
Cammy.
Catboy Cammy, yes. And that's obviously weird for a guy who promotes himself as being, a Catholic, traditional family values and all, or whatever. And everybody was like, it's a little gay. And then Jaden McNeil, who was a high-ranking member, arguably Nick's best friend for many years, left the movement and pointed out some other behaviors that seemed kind of gay. But it's a group of young men and making jokes like that, and see, everybody was like, a little gay, just a lot. And they had been working with Milo Yiannopoulos, kind of gay, and and so there's this aura of like to their fans, to the cult members, Nick Fuentes is the absolute unspoken truth of everything, and he's the greatest, and blah 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 blah. Everybody else is like, he's kind of gay, kind of gay. Now, there was a person who was very influential that worked very closely with Nick Fuentes and America First, named Ali. I believe Ali Alexander is his full name. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
So Ali is an older man, I believe in his 30s or 40s, and he had helped them out. He's the one that hooked them up with different connections. So Nick, earlier this year, as many of you would fucking know because he was everywhere, was associated with Kanye West. And when Kanye West came out and was like, the Jews this, the Jews that, Nick was sitting there with him. So was Milo. This was all of them. Now the honeymoon's over. Kanye's left, and he's basically denounced. Kanye put out a statement saying that anybody promoting Kanye for president is a, quote, charlatan, specifically aimed at Nick Fuentes, who says that the campaign's still going. Kanye's off doing his own thing. He wants to distance himself from all of it because he lost $2 billion, and I don't blame him. Now, Milo, for whatever reason, felt slighted, and again, Milo's not the good guy in this story because there are no good guys in this story, just to be clear. But Milo apparently had information that this Ali Alexander gentleman, I use the term very fucking loosely, was soliciting child pornographic images from members of America First. So he's been preying on the children, minors as well as not minors, of America First, young men, to get them into gay relationships or to send him pictures or anything, flirting as he calls it. And yeah, that's pretty much the death of a fucking movement. But they're still coping. They're dealing. They're trying to say, oh no, it's just bad. Milo's obviously bad because Milo's, I guess, gay, or they say he's a Satanist. Look, the messenger is the messenger, and I'm not going to sit here and defend Milo. But the message is what matters here, and the message is clear. Ali Alexander has now admitted to these allegations. He said not all of them are true, but some of them are true. So he has admitted to grooming young men, underage men, which is, by the way, a fucking crime and a federal crime at that. And in response, one of the things was because now they hate Milo. Milo's public enemy number one to Nick Fuentes now. Nick Fuentes doxed a sitting congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because according to Nick, Milo lives with her or something at their campaign house that she's renting. There's no way to confirm any of that, but he actually put out the full address and pictures from inside the house of a sitting member of Congress. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene has not fucking shied away from it. And she had some things to say about it, and essentially boiled down to that they're disgusting, and that, the predation of young men is disgusting. And also that, the FBI should investigate.
You know what? I mean, it sucks that all this has happened for the young men who are victims, but I'm not surprised that Nick is tied into any of this. He has always.
That's why I wanted to do the early spiel, right? Is because we, like, anybody who's been following it like we have, has always been suspicious of this organization.
Nick is one of those people who, to me, even when he was quote unquote legit, there was always something really fucking smarmy to me about him.
And that's part of his appeal to his fan base. To be fair, there are a bunch of ironic, smarmy Zoomers that love to say they're smarter than everybody and stuff. Like, that's their whole culture.
God, like, what can you imagine?
And
like,
it's insufferable.
Can you imagine if somebody in this show was like a Zoomer who was smarmy and like thought they were always correct?
Okay,
terrible.
Okay, but when I mean smarmy though, I mean like scummy. You're just funny, Shmuley, but you don't want to. I don't get creepy like serial killer vibes.
I don't know. I'm just taking that as we better look and see if there's a video of Shmuley with Catboy Cammy now, huh?
Well, no. Like, if I did, it would be ironic.
Oh, we shouldn't look for it, huh?
No, I don't think you should look into that at all. It's just, it's getting late. Maybe we take a nap. You know what I mean? We're all getting sleepy. We can look tomorrow. We can look tomorrow.
Come to think of it, I've never seen Shmuley and Catboy Cammy in the same place at the same time.
There you go. There's my proof. There can't be a video if we've never been.
Well, I've never seen Hitler in the same room as Shmuley either.
Well, I'm just saying, we can look this stuff up tomorrow. You know what I mean? You guys have had a long day. There's no need to start pulling on these threads today. Just make a note of it.
Yeah.
Figure it out tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. But yeah. It's, a lot of people, the guy's major argument is everything is the Jews' fault. If you're prone to that kind of thing and you're a Zoomer and you got the memes, I get it. Like, I was just telling a couple people the other day, I understand South Park better now because I'm totally the dad where the music sounds like shit, except it's not music in this case. It's memes, and it's young people memes, because all I can think is Zoomer memes are lol so random. I have no attention span. Let's smash two things that don't make sense together. And to me, I don't get it. I'm old. I get it. But I see why it appealed to a certain subset of people as well.
I mean, I'm an old soul though too, Max. Like, I'm 28, but much like Quentin Tarantino, I like old shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it's they
so
like
you're
that
a hipster.
based.
Damn straight. Yeah. You know what? I am hipster. Sorry, Gavin McGinnis, but I'm the real hipster now, not you.
That's true. I
But
once saw him drinking a coffee and looking at vinyl records.
Well, I have a stool that my ancestor used to get around. His legs didn't work. I will give that to you, so that you can get around, and it'll be real retro.
based.
Yeah, you just gotta hop around on a stool.
You will walk in the manner of your crippled forefathers.
Well, I mean, one of the jokes that Apex used to do was that my wheelchair was like a chariot that got passed down from generation to generation of crippled Sams.
I did want one more thing on the fucking Ali thing.
Yes, but
Yesterday he lost his check mark on Twitter, and today his account has been banned. So that's relevant because he allegedly had connections at Twitter, especially since Elon has taken charge. I don't think he had a direct tie to Elon, but he definitely knows people. I mean, he's such a classic pedophile in power that it's almost laughable if it wasn't so disgusting, because he gets all the connections, he's friends with everybody, right? And then he just openly preys on young men.
Do you remember, I know people like to shit on her, but do you remember like last year when Lauren Southern released that 3-hour like tell-all video?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, people hated her for it and called her a grifter, but I gotta say, she's actually, I'm not saying she's perfect either, but she seems to be the one who is smelling like a rose compared to a lot of these people.
Yeah. Well, I think the end is nigh for America First as an organization and Nick Fuentes' career. He's again, his reaction to this, I think is important to note, is to deny it, is to then when he said it was true, he actually blamed the victims. He said, oh, if you're 15 years old and you send a dick pic to a 30-year-old, there's something wrong with you. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're 15. Like, you know what I mean? Your brain's not even fully developed.
Yeah, but again, this is the same guy who, this is the group of guys. I mean, as Mr. Vickers pointed out on Twitter thread, this is the same group of guys who they're in their 20s supposedly, but yet they still have the girls are icky, mentality.
I believe the quote from Nick Fuentes, if I'm not wrong, is, quote, sex with women is gay. Right? And he said,
yeah, I know.
And I get what he's doing there. Actually. I say I don't get Zoomer humor. I actually got that one. But the fact that he thought anybody else would fucking get it, because it's such a niche and wrapped in so much fucking sarcasm. But then he ends up on what? Jimmy Kimmel, was it? Showed that clip? And yeah, normal people reacting to that clip are like, what is wrong with this fucking weirdo?
Even normal Zoomers though are like, yeah. And that's the thing. Like when Nick refers to Zoomer humor, even within Zoomer humor, it's very niche.
Right, but like, I get it. I honestly, like that one, I honestly legitimately get what he thinks is funny about that, why it's constructed as a joke, and why people find that funny. But what he doesn't get is why normal people aren't going to read through your 10 layers of irony. They're going to take you at your word. It's the same thing, and I'm not going to name the guy because he's a disgusting piece of shit, but there was a guy on here who kept saying, on YouTube, I should say, who kept saying he was an ironic pedophile, right? Well, I'm not going to dig through your irony. If you're going around saying you are a thing that's that atrocious, I'm just going to take your word for it.
Right.
And that's kind of the thing with Fuentes. It's like you're saying these things and most people aren't going to dig through your irony and they're just going to be like, what a fucking weirdo.
Well, and the thing of it is that
and that's coming from the big hairy guy, right? He's like, oh, what a fucking weirdo.
They confuse irony for like, they think because they're ironic they have a high IQ, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
You know irony.
Right. Well, Dunning-Kruger is a bitch, especially among young guys. But yeah, I mean, where does this lead for them? Hopefully they've fucking gone. They've ruined enough young conservative men for one lifetime. Of course, the elephant in the room is, in my personal opinion, that I think the feds have their hands all over this organization and have since the beginning. So it's no surprise that there's pedophiles. There's no surprise that there's violent criminals. Like there was that Latino Zoomer who was also a pedophile and had CP on his computer and threatened up things. There's been Porcelain just yesterday. One of these American First guy, and I assume he's an American First guy because he had one of their hats on, and he was wearing the what do they call them? Stupid looking fucking glasses that only stupid people wear. Baked Alaska wears them.
Oh, the
Pit Vipers.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, so he's wearing Pit Vipers and an America First hat and like something over his mouth, and he has a gun pointed in the picture, and it said something like "you fucked up, Jew boy" or something like that. Literally sending Porcelain threats, and all he's been doing is just tweeting about actual events that are happening. It's very typical of how they operate.
Yeah, well, and that is one thing. Jim last year, Medicare, when he had his debate with Nick, I only said Jim Medicare so that people who don't know would know who I'm talking about. But yeah, Mr. Medicare, when he debated Nick last year, like one of the things Nick said was because he wanted to strike Porcelain because he wasn't funny, and Jim got him to admit that it was actually because Porcelain did that Baked Alaska documentary, and Nick didn't like that. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure he'll have one on Nick after it's all said and done too. It's just like you'll never run out of content.
Yeah, I mean the problem with doing a documentary on Nick or Ralph, is like, where do you start and where do you stop? There's too much.
And to throw a bone to the people that love their Ralph stuff, I will say Ralph's response to this whole controversy has been to defend Ali Alexander, and I'm not misquoting. This is a direct quote from Ethan Ralph. Quote, "Fuck them kids." So that's Ralph's take.
Yeah.
Because Ralph's take is, well, this guy got me unbanned on Twitter, so he's fine, even though he's a literal pedophile.
Yeah. There are no moral standards in America First or Cozy at all.
That's
None.
for sure. And that's their ultimate problem. Of course, the thing is
I mean,
to give them as much credit as I even have, as if they're like a legitimate political organization or they'll have any sway. They were never going to have any sway. They were going to be a fringe forever. They could have kept that going, but it's probably not gonna keep going.
Well, okay. So like, I will admit that like one of the things that was really frustrating in 2016 was that Nick Fuentes, was getting like labeled by the media, by like the corporate media as being like a Trump guy, right? Because in my book, Nick was never a Trump guy. He was just a guy latching on to Trump's brand.
I looked at him a lot like Richard Spencer or something.
Well, yeah, no, I looked at them the same way. But now that they've gone off the deep end so much, the media can't like tie Trump to Fuentes.
They're trying. So
they'll try, but unsuccessfully.
They're actually not even trying that. Actually, the hit pieces I've seen today are tying Ali Alexander to Trump, because Ali Alexander organized a lot of Stop the Steal rallies, which weren't organized by the Trump campaign or organization in any way, or the GOP. So the tie is tenuous at best, and just because a guy, follows Trump and does stuff doesn't mean that Trump even knows who they are. Most times he doesn't. Trump's really great at like getting a spiel about somebody 5 minutes before he comes on stage and acting like he's known them his whole life. But
yeah,
he meets too many people. There's too many people working for him to really. If they showed me texts of Trump and Ali talking about Ali's proclivities, then maybe I would rethink things, but I really fucking doubt that's ever going to happen.
No, I've met people
but Fuentes knew, and that's the big one. That hashtag, if you want to find out more about this stuff on Twitter, either check out at the Ali Files, who are releasing most of the actual leaks, or look up hashtag Nick New, which is trending worldwide right now, and you'll see most of what I'm talking. I tried to give a brief summary with a little bit of context, even though I know your viewers probably know all this shit and are like, what the fuck, Max? I'm not fucking 3 years old. But hey, maybe somebody stumbles upon this in 3 years. I just wanted to kind of lay the stage.
Well, and see, and I mean, as much as I hate to say it, right? We have gotten away from the E-drama, but as I have mentioned before, it is hard to get away from the E-drama when the E-drama does tie into politics so much these days, for better or for worse.
Yeah, and especially this, like, we had to talk about this. There's no way around it. I don't want to make us the show that talks about this kind of shit. There's like 50 of those, but it is relevant, especially, Marjorie Taylor Greene was, in my opinion, put in harm's way. And I'll say this, I have another bit of speculation about that as well. If Nick Fuentes had her address this whole time, then is he or people like at America First who also had this information not immediately suspects in the swatting of Marjorie Taylor Greene? And for that matter, Tim Pool when Marjorie Taylor Greene went on the show.
Probably.
Certainly, this is something law enforcement should at least investigate. If Nick didn't do anything wrong, I don't want to fucking get frog marched through the fucking streets. But if he fucking had a hand in it, well, swatting is attempted murder, and swatting a sitting member of Congress is literal treason. So that's a pretty big fucking deal. And Nick is now proven that he had access to that information that could have been used. Also came out last week. There's a Vice article about the guy that was running a swatting service using. You heard about that?
No. What's this shit about?
Right. So there was a swatting service, and he has confirmed that people from that America First camp have used it before, as well as other people have admitted to using it, which is crazy to me because it's a massively big crime to do so. This service was set up on basically like a cross between Discord servers and dark web shit. And the idea was he had set up a thing where he could have an AI generated voice or text-to-speech voice who would call the local police department and say something horrific. The person had shot somebody or whatever. There's some type of horrific, violent crime that the police would need to respond to by kicking in the door, with the intent for the police to kick that person's door in and potentially even worse.
Yeah.
And so if this happened and Nick had the information to do it, and we know that people from America First had at least been in contact with the swatter, I want a fucking investigation done. This and further, I want an investigation done on this swatting service, just period, right? Because it could be the case that all of these big swattings we had seen in like the e-drama scene in the political world over the last like year and a half, they could have all come from this swatting service. And we need charges on people, because if you don't start punishing these people, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned Discord too, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because this doesn't necessarily tie into America First, but I do find interesting that this is another, Gen Z Zoomer thing. Apparently there was like an Air Force, like, or no, it wasn't Air Force, but there was some military, official who was like 21.
Massachusetts Air National Guard.
Yes, that story.
I'm not gonna lie, this hits a little close to home. It might be a bit doxy, but I haven't lived there in over 10 years, so who cares? The town that this kid was from is the town that I grew up and went to high school in. I went to high school with his brother, okay? And I don't know the kid, Jack Texera. And just to be clear, like, since I know the family, it is Texera, not Texiera or whatever people have been saying. It's Texera. The family, are stand up. I've never had an unkind thing to say about them. This kid was Air National Guard. He was in IT, which is how he got access to a lot of these documents. He apparently ran a Discord server with a bunch of other young kids. And in order to impress these kids with like how cool he was or whatever, he would show them leaked Pentagon documents that, again, he got through his IT work. These leaks are, revealed a lot of stuff about the Ukraine. You can go look at them yourself. I don't want to, there's so much misinformation about what's in them and why it is or isn't important. That's up to you. But what's important here is that this kid, I don't think he did it with any political end in mind. It doesn't seem so.
No.
All the other kids in the server that have been interviewed say, they were just shit posty. It's not too different from our server. They played like Hearts of Iron and Arma 3 and shit, like Gmod, and shared memes. And so in order to be cool to these kids on Discord, this 21-year-old Air Guardsman leaked seriously classified shit. And of course, then when it got out, they looked at his Discord, which linked to his Steam, which led them right to his front door. And the other day, watching the town I grew up in have a fucking FBI SWAT raid about 10 feet from where I used to like smoke pot with my ex-girlfriend when I was a teenager. It was a little fucking weird.
Yeah.
I will say this. I don't know Jack Texera. I don't know what his actual intentions were. I'm only going by what I've seen the other Discord members have said in interviews. And even that, how much can we trust of what they're maybe trying to protect their friend? I don't know. I do think that they're going to try and put this kid away for life. I don't agree with that. I do think he should go to jail, though.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how long, but I think he should go to jail.
Well, more than that, though, Adrian Blair actually brought up this point yesterday that I thought was pretty good. And by the way, Adrian Blair won, but she said that now because of this, we're going to have boomer politicians who don't understand how the internet. Now they're gonna look into Discord, and now Discord is gonna, it's gonna get the same treatment as fucking TikTok,
Oh yeah.
and
Get off Discord, guys. Get off Discord. Just it's not the hangout that you think it is. It's not the like I'm banned. I got banned on Discord for the crime of somebody added me without my consent to a server, made me an admin. I never posted on the server, and I got permanently banned forever. That's Discord in a nutshell.
I got my first account got banned because I was in because I was in a Gavin McGinnis fan server at a time when the Proud Boys were being investigated, and they just banned us all, even though our server had nothing to do with the Proud Boys because it had Gavin's name on it. They just banned all of us.
If you're sharing edgy memes, right, on Discord, like, it's already too fucking far. You're already running the risk of shit like this. But like, more than that, imagine if you're on this guy's server just as a fucking, now you're getting news media coming and asking you a million questions. They've completely doxed you just because you're in the server. That's a thing that can happen to you. It happened to these kids.
Yeah.
Through no fault of your own, right? Next thing you know, you literally have feds knocking at your door. It's just get off Discord. It's not worth your fucking time.
Yeah, that
Discord servers only work in when there's small numbers, and at that, you got a small group of friends or whatever, and that, again, if you have one person in there that decides to do something over the fucking line, that can affect all of you. And I just want to point out, Sepson's out there in chat, and he's one thing he asked, I want to respond to, is, do we know if Ralph used this service, referring to the swatting service I was talking about? We don't know, but if Nick did, then it's a reasonable assumption that I think should be looked into by federal authorities. Further, he's made a couple other good comments. He says you should never trust Discord. If you don't control the server, you are being watched. He says IRC and Mumble is the way to go. There's a couple other alternatives, but he's not wrong. And the last thing he said is the most important. If you trust Discord to keep you anonymous, you are wrong. They will not do that.
Which I've never believed that. Also, Seps, and I am not drunk at all. But maybe on Friday, if I get Yingling, maybe then we'll have a drunk stream at some point. I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm not surprised I'm not surprised Sepson is kind of drunk, but
yeah, gotta give Chat some love, and he was making some good points. So as far as the swatting service, I'm calling for a full investigation of that, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene's calling for an investigation.
So like I said, I got banned once from Discord for being in a Gavin McGinnis group. The second time I got banned because I said that Pam Anderson was an attractive lady, and someone got mad because she's been married to Kid Rock. So go fucking figure. I'm out of Discord officially, and I don't miss it really. So.
Well, that's part of the problem too. Sepson kind of just nailed it. That service sounds sus as hell. I actually think the problem is, for me calling for a federal investigation, is what if they were running the fucking service?
Oh yeah, well, fuck. Who knows these days?
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all.
What is So this is gonna be like I was trying to explain the whole Fed meme to someone the other day. And I think I got it, but what is the whole what is the glowy thing referencing?
It's referencing Terry Davis. May he rest in peace. The man was a saint. And Terry Davis, absolute genius
it's that thing.
programmer. Yeah, I want to, since we're going to talk about it, I'll explain to chat. Again, same reason. Somebody might watch this in a few years and have no idea. Terry Davis was a programmer that came upon some hard times due to his severe mental illness. And he would do live streams and things and say really ridiculous, wild things. And he one thing, he called them I won't say the whole thing out because we're still on Rumble, but glow in the dark N-words or whatever. It got shorted down to just glow in the darks, which gets shorted down to just glowies. But what in his world, there was these federal agents everywhere that were maybe aliens or something, and that's what he referred to as the glowies, and that's where it comes from.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where I thought because I did watch Mr. Medicare's Internet Insanity video on that, and I laughed my ass off.
I will say this. I will say this. 5 shots going on 6 said a glowy is what conservatives call adversarial people in their chat rooms when they don't want to engage with what they're saying. That's true too. That's absolutely true. It is a thing that gets thrown at anybody that disagrees with you. I only like to even engage in speculation about Fed ops in very certain scenarios. Of course, feds do ops. This is a thing. They do sting operations. They're constantly doing this stuff. As for if everybody, if they're doing it to the scale that we all think, probably not. Also, Sepson says Terry Davis programmed for God. Temple OS is the only OS. All hail Terry Davis. Agree, 100%. If you haven't fucked around with Temple OS, it's actually quite remarkable. He made an entire operating system from scratch, and he says that it was completely inspired by God.
Don't use a compiler. Use boot it from.
Yeah, you got a Mountain ISO.
Mountain ISO, like a white man would.
Yeah. Terry was something else, and it's sad that we've lost a great man who coined such humorous and really, my God, did the glow in the dark thing resonate with people, because it encapsulates the idea that we can all kind of spot them. When feds actually are doing something, it's really easy to spot it, or spot somebody who's acting like it, even if they're not actually a fed.
Well, that's why I told my audience not, like, way back before January 6th happened, when they were planning the events, I said on my show, I do not endorse anyone in my audience going to Washington, D.C. because something just seems off about it. Like, I just had an intuition that they were going to try something because of Charlottesville.
Right.
And, most people who went to DC were peaceful, but there were those wackos who, who just stirred trouble. I'm not saying that the QAnon shaman is a fed, but I'm saying I think he might have been influenced by feds to do stupid
shit. I've always maintained, literally since I was watching it live, that most of the people that went in the building, you notice that they're all live streaming, they're grifting their links, they're not there because of whatever they're claiming. They're there because they're a bunch of influencers. And me and Shmuley have made the fucking joke before. Only prosecute people who were live streaming on January 6th. because that shows that you were grifting. You know, if you came in just to get attention and clicks on your fucking shit, which is what most of the most big time ones were all trying to either stream themselves or get their picture taken. Like QAnon Shaman was begging for people to take his picture, obviously, right?
Yeah.
The whole that's my take. January 6th was a grift. And then the left used it as a grift again on top of that. It's fucking double whammy.
And then YouTube literally used January 6th to ban smaller channels like mine for even talking about it. So there we go.
But even still, I think that the people like that, you know, charging them with sedition, really, are you fucking kidding me? Or they've charged Enrique Tarrio, the former head of the Proud Boys, and he was literally in federal custody on they arrested him on like January 4th or something like that. So there's no way he could have done it's all stupid. If you wanted to slap some people with a hey, you shouldn't have come in the building without permission, shit, that would be one thing. But there's still people who have never even been charged and they've been sitting in a prison this whole time. It's fucking ridiculous. Let them out. Charge them or let them out. Shit or get off the pot. And they will hold them. They'll hold them right until a Republican president comes into office. Mark my words.
Yeah.
Without charge, mind you. Because they can. Because everybody was fine with the Patriot Act and the NDAA. And are you starting to see now why people like me spoke out against those things?
Well, the Restrict Act too. That's really scary. Too.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. So I wouldn't. I'm not gonna worry too much about it because it's dead on arrival.
It's not. I mean, I'm not worried that it's going to go anywhere. The concern is that someone even put it out there as an idea in the first place.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I'm surprised that they thought they'd even get like a fucking vote in the Senate on it. It's not like, but again, yeah, that's the kind of thing is we were asleep at the wheel, or I say as like American society in general. Obviously, most people listening to this were probably too young to have voted against the Patriot Act or something like that. But it has been a slippery slope. And they said, no, this is just going to be used on foreigners who are terrorists and da. No, it was going to be used on you.
Well, hold on though, Max. Did the people actually get a chance to vote on the Patriot Act? Because
no, but
that's my point.
But we live in a representational republic, and people voted for the fucking elected officials that passed it. So yes, they did get a vote on it, and that's why. Like people, that's kind of one of my pet peeves is people like, well, did people get to vote on it? Yes, everybody you vote for who you're sending, and you should take care of who you vote
for. George W. Bush.
Right? Yeah. When you send that person to Washington, when you and you know we can blame him till we're blue in the face, but every member of Congress except for I think Ron Paul. And what was the guy that saw UFOs? Dennis Kucinich. Everybody but Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich voted for it. So, you know, if you voted to send anybody but Ron Paul or Dennis Kucinich to Congress, you voted tacitly voted for the Patriot Act, even though it's not completely fair because the election happened in 2000 before 9/11. But hey. That's the importance of who you send to Washington.
Dennis Kucinich, that is a name I have not heard in forever.
The deep references, huh?
What are you, Dennis Miller? Well, you're pretty close with references like that, Bab.
Hey, so. I'm not gonna let it go. That a guy in Congress was like, yeah, no, I get abducted by aliens all the time.
I still have my ass up at Congressman Chuck Johnson, who was who was concerned that Guam tipping over was a national security risk.
Yeah, well, chat's been going nuts. Let's give a little shout out to the chat here because they've been on fire tonight. Sepson says, of course, something seemed off. The establishment was gunning for Trump from day one. 5 shots going on 6 says, there was something off about it. The president was lying to you for months in order to get you angry enough to want to go in the first place. I'm not really sure what that means. Magadoos Network says, Max Sand looks well fed. Yes, sir. I had a nice big dinner tonight because I got to do a 10 mile in the morning. Sepson, it was very weird living in the DC area weeks before the event. I live in Arlington, Virginia. OPSEC, brother. OPSEC. No. Sepson says, of course, YouTube did. It's what Susan did and what YouTube does. I guess that's in reference to using Gen 6 to ban people. Sepson says, Gen 6 is as much an insurrection as I am sober right now. That's true.
Well, for not being sober, you make a lot of sense. Like, you're coherent. So, bravo, I guess.
5 shots going on 6 says, who is sitting in prison that hasn't been charged right now? I can tell you one is Mark Sahadi, which is the free speech lawyer for Super Happy Fun America. I don't know all of their names. I think there's about 6. There might be a little less than that that have not been charged specifically. I'm talking about. But that is a good question. You should challenge people's points like that. I like this guy, to be honest, even if he's contrary to what we believe in some cases. We love it. And that he said, gotcha. I got to be honest, as somebody who thinks J6 was literally one of the worst things ever to happen to our country, I'm skeptical when defenders of it say anything about it. Well, I'm not defending it. Like I said, I think it was mostly just a bunch of grifters.
Yeah,
but I also don't think it's the worst thing ever. I don't even think it's all that big a deal. But
yeah, to be fair, I've never defended January 6th as a good thing. What I have always said personally is, I think it's a bit of a reach when people say it's a terrorist attack on the same level as 9/11, right? I just, even if you didn't think January 6th is bad, it's nothing compared to
okay. He said over 150 police officers had injuries, 4 killed themselves later, to say nothing of Sicknick, who died of 2 strokes the next day. Here's the thing. Anybody that assaulted a police officer, I'm not going to fucking defend that. And again, I didn't even defend people that went in and just filmed themselves and walked out. So I'm certainly not going to defend. Like, if you went to the Capitol and you got into fights with police and did any of that shit, and, fuck around and find out, bro. Like,
yeah,
and if you thought it was this big war that you were fighting, if you thought it was this big insurrection, like the left thinks that it is, I mean, you didn't act like it, right? For the most part.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, my take on it from the very beginning and watching it happen was that there was it was a complicated, hectic situation, right? A lot of people just kind of meandered in and didn't see any of that stuff. And those people are separate from the people who kind of brawled their way in there. Yeah. And there's another line of people who, and that's what Max said earlier, that were like, oh, it's open. Now I can go in there and take selfies and get my live stream views up. And those people.
And try and steal a podium or whatever. Again, another thing, anybody who went in there and did property damage, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a nuanced thing. And it, a lot of the J6 defenders get mad at us for fucking saying some of this shit too. So.
Okay, 5 shots going on 6 said it was worse than 9/11 in one specific sense. This was a domestic attack brought on by the president of our country. again, Trump never said, go break into the Capitol.
He said, "Go
And
home with peace in your heart and no violence." And most people did, and the ones that didn't, again, I don't have much sympathy for most of them.
Any of the sort of takes like
what I'm saying though is I keep hearing this take that Trump somehow told people to go incite.
I get it.
He
So
told people
he said Trump didn't have to say invade the Capitol for him to be complicit in the reason that they were there and the anger that they were feeling. He lied about the election. Well, I believe it was stolen too, and I don't think I didn't get that from Trump. As a matter of fact, I thought it before he ever said it. So, yeah, I agree to disagree.
Yeah, I mean, as a defender of freedom of speech, right? Like, you should be able to even hypothetically, you should be able to say whatever you want about the election. And if his speech led to other people to do things that you disagree with, well, that's not the laws of our nation, and that's not how free speech works, right?
That is a real slippery slope too, because you can better say that anything I said on my show, that anything even we say on our show, that someone could, like, just as like Sepsin could take something I'm saying out of context and decide to go drunk driving.
More so, the point of freedom of speech is to defend speech that people might find offensive. Right now, there are people online saying that there is a trans genocide. I think that's absurd, and I think that's insensitive to people who have actually suffered genocide. However, it's their right to do so. And if somebody takes that information and then goes and does something regrettable, the person who said it did not incite them to do it.
How many people in 1999 in high school played video games, do you think?
4.
Right. Is obviously it was 4, and then 2 of them went and committed a mass shooting, right? It was only 4 in both of them, right? No, the thing is like, how many people do, like, if you give a message to so many people, somebody's going to be a psychopath. That's just how it always is. And so if you want to suppress all speech that you don't like, and you decided that it's lies, we're gonna disagree on that and find ourselves on opposing sides. That's all.
Well, he said, why didn't Trump use that freedom of speech during the 3 hours of, I mean, whatever, dude. Like, that's not related to the argument, right?
All right. Well, I'm not going to sit here arguing with the Biden.
Yeah, let's not sit there and argue with chat.
Yeah. I appreciate the fucking constructive feedback, though. It's
it's cool to have somebody disagree with you.
Yeah, maybe sometime we could have you on and hash this out. It's a little easier than reading text and responding.
Yeah, I have a feeling I know who 5 Shots Going on 6 is, but I don't want to say anything on air. So, but
it's just the worst way to have this discussion, right? Is reading chat and responding to it, because we're not going to necessarily represent him as fair as possible and all this. And by the time he responds to what we've said 20 more things. So
not just that, but also on Rumble specifically, chat disappears after the stream ends. So
which is why I read it out loud each time, because I want to make sure I'm reading what's being said.
Yes, same here, and for the podcast, and for the audio listeners as well. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've covered the Budweiser thing. We covered America First and that clusterfuck.
Yep.
So yeah, we've covered a lot. Wednesday we might have Sean Semenko of Uncensored America on, but still trying to figure that out. Regardless, though, we will have a show on Wednesday, and I'm told that we have other guests coming up in the future. So yeah, should be pretty good. Anything else from you guys? Or
I don't have anything.
Well, yeah, now that I have navigated Odyssey live streaming, you can expect a little more. Obviously, the Cringe Coffee House stuff has been kind of on the back burner. I did do an update on the Johnny Fox. Basically, he got banned off of YouTube and decided that Twitch is far less censorious in his mind. Although he got banned for, quote, creator on creator harassment, and that policy literally came from Twitch. So I don't know how he thinks that's going to benefit him. We looked into some of the stuff he was saying. It was pretty funny. Watched a clip of the new Dice Golden movie, which me and Shmuley and some of the other guys watched that whole thing. It's like 2.5 hours long, and it's fantastic. It's some of the best outsider art I've ever seen on YouTube. And so we watched a bit of that. And then, we'll look at stuff for, obviously, Dave Grady still does stuff, and Cringe Coffee House on Odyssey, where I don't have to be as worried about, quote, creator harassment. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and I mean we're streaming on Odyssey too. The Whitfield Report is on Odyssey as well, and I'll be doing some exclusive content over there as well, more related to like music and old movies. So
I might do some Shmuley Says episodes in the future and talk about fertility rates, rates of religiosity, just stuff that I'm interested in, basically like general trends type stuff. So if you would allow me to post that on the Whitfield Report Rumble, I think that's where I would post a few of them, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if chat's interested or whatever, just comment on this video.
Yep.
So maybe that might be something for locals too, if we get people in that community, maybe.
And look, chat's been busy tonight, and I don't usually do the code giveaways on a Monday show, but hey chat, I'm gonna drop a Steam code in the chat for a free game, and if you go redeem it on Steam right now, you'll get this free game. I just got to pick one off of my list here.
We have 11 people watching, so
yeah, I'm just going to drop it in the chat. First person to redeem it gets the game. That's how this works. So be ready. I'll give you a second. You guys can open up your Steam. You can get your fucking clicking ready, and we'll see who can redeem the code for God, what is a good one? Here we go. I'm an anti-war guy, and there is no better anti-war message game that's ever existed than This War of Mine. This is the Final Cut edition with all DLC. So,
oh yeah, I've actually started playing that. Good game.
Yeah, just redeem that on your Steam account, and that game is yours, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate chat being so busy tonight. Thank you.
We do, especially for a Monday night. Usually Wednesday is usually the flagship show. But we've been doing good on Mondays too. So
we're picking up steam. So thanks chat. Enjoy the game. Whoever wins it, I will do another giveaway on Wednesday as well.
Awesome. So, alrighty, folks. Well, I think that just does it for me. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I'll be fixing the Spotify podcast feed stuff. And then on Wednesday, barring technical difficulties, we should have Sean Semenko here with us. I know that we've been looking forward to hearing about Uncensored America. I've had him on the show before, but that was kind of before Uncensored America really took off. So yeah, looking forward to that. And so we'll see you on Wednesday, folks. Until then, have a good evening and God bless, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.